Alright, my, part 2. I've never done 2-part videos, so it's gonna be a little strange for me. Like I said in the first video, at the end of this first video, I said that horror movies has changed over the years, and if you watch from the first movies, from Dracula, Frankenstein, other stuff, and you see horror movies now, you obviously see a big difference. And now I want to move on to what people of our generation call classics, and that's The Exorcist, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, all that other stuff. A lot of these movies were made in the 70s, early 80s, and around that time, a new genre of horror being born, I guess you can say. The slasher genre. And the slasher genre is something of horror movies that nowadays is probably one of the most popular, concepts. Michael, Freddy, Jason, Chucky, Leatherface, a bunch of other guys, and not only is it one of our favorites, it's something that we kind of tend to go for. Obviously, a lot of the movies now are remakes of Japan horror movies, Korean horror movies, a bunch of other stuff. Friday the 13th is already remade, Halloween was remade, and now Nightmare on Elm Street is going to be remade. But you look down the line and you go back further, and the Wolfman's going to be remade. The Wolfman trailer is already out, and you look at those stuff, and you see Frankenstein. Frankenstein, appears in Van Helsing, which good concept, but it was alright movie. It wasn't really a horror movie; it was more of an action movie. But Dracula has been remade. He's one of the most popular vampires that keeps getting a movie remade about him, whether it be a parody or whether it be different concepts of Dracula that are in movies. Gets his own movie. By the way, the worst Dracula movie that I ever saw was Dracula 2000. That movie blew. Sorry, I said that. But it had Gerard Butler. Sorry, that didn't even do it for me. Anyway, let's get that out of the way. Okay, so we got the concept of classic horror movies. We got the new concept of classic horror movies. But The Exorcist. That was the first horror movie that scared the shit out of everybody. I mean, to this day, it still scares the crap out of everybody. I know somebody who's never seen The Exorcist, and I showed it to him, and even though he had heard about what happened, and kind of already knew what was gonna happen, he was still scared shitless. So does it still scare us? Of course, it still scares us. It's horror movies; they're meant to scare us. And one concept you might look at, the fact that classic horror movies, when you talk about Dracula and Frankenstein and the Wolfman, they were all monsters. So you might even say that the original classic horror movies were all monster movies, and now they're just all slasher movies, or some guy just trying to kill people. And the concept of horror movies now, you don't really get monster movies now. The first monster movie that actually was a horror, that actually added the horror movies to, and it was kind of a horror thriller movie. I think it was more of a thriller. Was Alien. And I will tell you right now, I was like, I don't know, 4 years old. Maybe no, I wasn't. Was I even born? I don't think I was born yet when Alien came out. What year did Alien came out? I don't even remember anymore. I don't remember anymore. I know I saw Alien on TV. I just don't know how young I was if it was released. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Alien. When I first saw it, that was fucked up. I tell you, I messed up my childhood. No, I'm kidding. I didn't mess up my childhood. No, Michael messed up my childhood. Not Alien. I was really close to the TV when the Alien popped up, and I ran away. I don't remember it. My family members, and they love to bring it up every time Alien's on. So, Alien, they kept that same concept. That series, the monster movie, and it was a horror movie. So you kept that. But nowadays, when you see a monster movie, it's not really a horror movie. It's more like a thriller, or it's more like a suspense movie, which fits into the original concept of horror in movies, with suspense. But it's not the same thing. It's not. Whether you like to think about it, whether you think it is, it's not. But horror monster movies now are like, you get they still have the same concept of, there has to be a pop-up moment, there has to be teenagers, there has to be all this other stuff that's very cliche in horror movies. You're running and suddenly you trip for no reason and you can't get up, you sprain your ankle, and even though it's like, oh my god, you feel for the character, because nowadays you don't really feel for the character. You want them to die. Back then, you're rooting for the person to live. You were rooting for the person. You're rooting for the person to live. You're rooting for them to kill the monster at the end. Sometimes it happened. Sometimes it didn't. But yeah, the concept of monster movies isn't really the same anymore. Because in monster movies now, you have like Cloverfield. I love Cloverfield. I mean, I thought that was pretty good. Yeah, I could use more monster killing, but it wasn't about the monster. It was about the monster attacking New York City. But it was also about the group of people trying to survive the monster attack. And I guess that's what I really like. And the fact that it was, first person view, that was awesome. I love that concept. I'll probably get to that in my third part of the video. But yeah, you get monster movies now, they have the same element. And when speaking about monster movies, now that I think about it, The Host, which is a South Korean horror movie, that's another favorite monster movie that I love. I don't even know where I'm going with that. The Host was a monster movie of South Korea. If you haven't seen it, I really recommend you watch it. It's very good. It's character driven. The monster, I guess, it doesn't really go attacking people. It attacks people, but it's not really. It just kind of. It's not going around. It's not typical monster movie you think it is. It's really about. It's really character driven, and I think the director did a very good job. And he's actually one of my favorite directors, but I can't pronounce his name for the life of me, so I'm not going to try to pronounce it. But The Host, I really recommend that movie. You should really go watch that. And that also bought, it bought elements of horror. Not really, it had pop-up moments, but at the same time it had tension when the monster was around, and when the monster wasn't around, when you knew the monster was around, but he wasn't actually shown on screen, it brought some tension, and that's what really did it for them. That's what really did it for me. So, the fact that horror in a movie is no longer the same concept really bothers me. And the fact that a lot of horror movies now are remade. You see, The Last House on the Left was remade. I personally seen both of them, and I'm not taking anything away from the original movie. I'm not taking anything away from Wes Craven for what he did. I guess the original one, when I saw it, I obviously saw I tried to put myself in that time period, and I obviously saw what people saw, were the most, disturbing. I saw what people were talking about. And then you see the new one. The one made last year. This year? No, last year. No, it was this year. Yeah, it was this year. You see what they did, and you're just like, wow, you know, you can't really compare the two, because it's whether or not they're the same, you know, you still find comparisons, and that will lead me to my part 3 of this video. So check it out.